fight the powers that be here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program, live from Southern California's Relief Factor studio. I am guest host Kurt Schlichter, sitting in for the great Hugh Hewitt as he sits out this round, and we fight the power that be. Wow. Axios AM, Mike Allen, friend of the show, top 10, top of the newsletter, push for Sanders to concede. DC's new fight. The fix is in, Bernie bros. What you gonna do about it? What are you gonna do? You're gonna do nothing, you simpering sissies. Let's hear from James Clyburn. Cut number 17.
I think we will be at a point where Joe Biden will be the prohibitive nominee of the party, and I think the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, should then step in, make an assessment, and determine whether or not they ought to have any more debates.
Once again from Mike Allen on Axios AM newsletter, to which you should subscribe because he's a good friend of the show. James Carville said on MSNBC, let's shut this puppy down. This thing is decided. David Axelrod on CNN, you're going to see enormous pressure from all elements of the party to yield to the results that we now see. Here are the results. Out of 1,991 needed, Joe Biden's got 823. Bernie Sanders has 663. Gosh, that's almost halfway there. This thing is over, right? Well, that's what you're being told, Bernie bros. You're being told to fall in line. Salute the guy who gets confused by squirrels. That's right. Salute and vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden. Look, on the plus side, there is something positive. This could have been worse. It could have been so much worse. Josh Crushhour, another friend of the show, he tweets out from a Politico story what Warren's campaign, Elizabeth Warren, you remember her? Chief sitting Bolshevik. Warren's campaign design director. What the hell's a design director? What's a design director? Design's failure. Anyway, this is amazing. Okay, here is a quote from Elizabeth Warren's campaign design director. I keep thinking about the coronavirus and fictional universe in which it turned all of us into zombies and a small group of heroes try to go back in time to elect Warren because she was the only one with a plan. Yeah, that happened. So I guess maybe you could have done worse than Joe Biden. Maybe you could have done worse. Maybe. Hey, I think there's an excitement deficit about Joe Biden because dude's not well. Dude's not all in. Even Maxine Waters agrees with me. Cut number 19.
Who do you like most compared to the Biden and Bernie?
It's not about who you like. It's about now watching and understanding who can beat Trump.
Do you think Biden has what it takes to beat Trump?
I don't know, but we'll see.
I don't know. There's a ringing endorsement. I don't know. Can Joe Biden pull it off? Hell if I know. I got no idea. I don't know. Maybe his running mate will be that pigeon who keeps pestering him. I don't know. That's a great replacement song, by the way, Adam. I got a thumbs up, so we'll probably hear I Don't Know by the Replacements at some time because as I am Kurt Schlichter, the guest host of Hugh Hewitt, I am taking control of the bumper music and banging it up a notch. But Joe Biden is down a notch. Holy cow. Now, he goes in, he has this fight with the guy, this working class guy. He's literally in a hard hat. So you have the party of the working man. You got the guy who's been a senator for 36 years. He represented the state of the credit card companies. And he's sitting there wagging his finger, shushing women, wagging his finger at this working man who was so uppity as to dare raise his voice to his master, to not fall on his knees and genuflect at the demigod from Dover. So then Joe stumbles outside after humiliating himself. And then this is what he says, 13.
Right temperament with voters that you don't agree with, sir.
President, on the coronavirus, both targeting you over this exchange this morning with the voter up guns. Any regrets about how you handled it?
Well, I'm surprised that Sanders is joining Trump.
Huh? What's that? This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for Hugh Hewitt. Stick around for Ned Ryun, right here.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you by Food for the Poor.
And that music can mean only one thing here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. That substitute guest host, retired United States Army Colonel, noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, and senior columnist at townhall.com, Kurt Schlichter, is getting together with the great Ned Ryun, senior fellow at the Center for American Greatness. Ned, are you ready to be American and great today?
I am ready to be both great, and I'm already an American.
Did you appreciate the loud, bombastic X-bumper music for you?
I love that. It helped kind of give me a little extra juice. I mean, I was already very excited to be on with you, but I think it's taken it up a notch or two.
Well, you are right to be excited to be on with me as guest host on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. You are so very right. Look, I wanted to initially talk to you about what I thought were some brilliant insights that you had about America's response to the coronavirus epidemic in terms of looking at the vulnerabilities it's exposed in our outsourcing of our capacity to generate resources such as antibiotics. And we will get to that. But I cannot have you on and have you fail to comment on that doddering old fossil.
Oh, my gosh.
What kind of look is it for a representative of the party of the working man to be wagging his finger at a guy in a construction hat?
That's right.
Telling him, how dare you get uppity with me, you mere peasant?
Yeah, this was the thing that, it struck me. First of all, Joe Biden was lying through his teeth, and we all know that again.
His false teeth.
His false teeth. Look at the video from last week with Beto in which he assures, gun grabber Beto, you'll be my gun czar. You'll be able to deal with the gun issue and take away these guns. And then he goes and tells this
like
this
the
guy,
AR-14.
Yeah, I'll never take away your AR-14. I believe in the Second Amendment. Hey, Joe, there's something called video in which people can see what you said just a few days ago and then juxtapose it against what you said yesterday and realize both cannot be true. You're clearly lying. I think the thing that was interesting to me, though, Kurt, you made a good point. 10, 15, 20 years ago, Joe Biden in a factory talking to the working class would have been embraced, would have been cheered, and instead you end up with this contentious finger-wagging, swearing at him, and then challenging him to go outside and basically throw down. It was one of those things, and again, it just highlights the fact, I can't believe this, Kurt. I will be very honest. For the last year, I have been saying there is absolutely no way the Democrat Party is going to nominate the utter mediocrity of Joe Biden, who was mediocre when he was at the top of his game, who clearly is not at the top of his game, who's lost 3, 4, 5 steps, who probably is a billboard, a walking billboard for signs of early Alzheimer's. And I'm sitting here going, I cannot believe this is going to happen. But this shows the desperation of the ruling class. Well, they need an empty vessel back in control to get back to establishment normalcy, status quo. He is an empty vessel. That is all he would be.
Well, they need a meat puppet, and he's a puppet. As far
That's
as
right.
meat, he's stringy and old. But look, do you think they're actually going to go through with this? Now, producer Dwayne has a theory. He thinks about 1 week before, Joe Biden's going to wander out to a podium for the first time in months because they're going to keep him the hell away from mics.
That's right.
And he's going to say, well, because of reasons and because I can't accept the nomination, and somebody else, not Bernie, the guy who won second most delegates, someone else is going to parachute in as the savior. It may be Felonia Milhouse von Pantsuit. I don't know. What do you think of this theory?
I don't think that's a bad theory because this is not getting better, people, right? This is only going to get worse. Imagine him going on debate stage with Trump. That would be a disaster.
Won't happen. No,
That's
Ned,
right.
They're not going to let him debate,
No.
and it's going to be because Trump is racist and reasons and because
Coronavirus.
Yeah,
we
and
can't have
virus
debates
and,
because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, and the media is going to cheer this brave Sir Robin running away.
I think what's probably going to happen at the convention, they're obviously going to have as the vice president the real choice, the person that they really want to be the presidential candidate. Again, I think you're right. I think something's going to happen over the next few months going into the convention. At some point, people have to understand the American people are not stupid, and you can only hide the football for so long. At some point, people are going to see in a very public way Joe Biden is not what he used to be. There's something clearly wrong, and there's no way that we could trust him with the nuclear codes.
Well, let me. I want to play cut number 19, Maxine Waters, giving him her full and unqualified support. Cut 19, please.
Who do you like most compared to the Biden and Bernie?
It's not about who you like. It's about now watching and understanding who can beat Trump.
Do you think Biden has what it takes to beat Trump?
I don't know, but we'll see.
Well, there's a powerful endorsement.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, I think they realize this is not the strongest. This is, you know what Joe Biden reminds me of? He really kind of reminds me of the Bob Dole, John McCain dynamic.
Except Bob Dole was still lucid. He was a hero, but I do expect that, within a year or two, Joe Biden will be doing Viagra ads.
But it's almost like, well, it's kind of their turn. It's the establishment pick. We're going to make this person be the nominee this year. Yeah, probably not going to win, but everybody inside the party will be happy, and we'll just have to accept whatever happens in the fall.
Well, we just got to wait till Joe Biden starts talking to the third person about Joe Biden. Joe Biden! I absolutely agree with you on the parallel to 1996. The difference is, they were both long tenured senators. Bob Dole was also a bit crotchety. He was a war hero, and I think he was treated pretty badly. And disrespectfully. In any case, let's shift gears. I want to get to coronavirus because you recently made some very good points about how we can learn from this. And this is something I wrote about today in my town hall column for VIPs only. Use the promo code Kurt to get access. But my Wednesday column, I talked a little about it too. What can we do as far as learning from the coronavirus epidemic and about how we've globalized our capabilities and made ourselves more vulnerable?
No, we have. I was talking about this Friday night with Tucker. I'd written a piece in American Greatness last week in which I laid out and said, I think coronavirus it's not going to be the big one, right?
It is not the big one.
But it has highlighted some significant weaknesses in our policy, and I was highlighting Department of Commerce study a couple of years ago showed that 97% of our antibiotics are made in China.
I did. Did you know that before this?
I really didn't know this.
Neither did I. You would think that if we had an establishment that was as competent and capable and smart as they keep telling us they are, that we might either be aware of this and on to solving it or have not gotten into that situation in the first place.
But here are a couple things that led us to this. So 80% of the products that are used to make our drugs domestically also from China. The generic drugs. The
precursors.
Right. Most of the generic drugs that our military uses to stay healthy also made in China. How did we get to this point? So my next piece for American Greatness coming out this week, so I'm going to tell people a little bit about it. How did we get to this point? Two things. Our regulatory state made it completely unfeasible for us to actually produce these onshore. So in 2004, we shut down our last factory that was actually producing penicillin. As we are doing this and crushing our production onshore, the Chinese in the early 1980s had started to invest heavily in penicillin fermenters. So as we're crushing our onshore, China's making a run at it, and all of a sudden, between corporatist greed and our regulatory state, we have pushed all of this offshore. The thing that I'll also point out is this, Kurt, at least 50% of Americans every day are on some form of antibiotic and drug. If the Chinese decided to weaponize this and said we are going to shut off the pipeline for antibiotics and drugs back to the U.S., what does that mean for our health care? What does that mean for our military? It will not affect just a few million Americans. It would affect potentially hundreds of millions of Americans. This is insanity. And I'm going to make the argument in this newest piece. As we went and said no country in its right mind would allow steel production to be offshored, no country in its right mind would allow its drug and antibiotic production to be offshore. It is a national security issue. We should figure this out. Coronavirus has shown us how weak we are in this situation. Let's fix it, and let's fix it today.
Well, look, coronavirus is a tragedy. A lot of people are suffering.
That's right.
But we've got to take advantage of it. When I was in the military, we did an after-action review every time we did a training operation, every time we did a real operation. We tried to learn from our mistakes. And I think the big mistake that we've made with our elite going to Davos, clinking Chardonnay glasses and imagining that the world is one big happy family, that we are really still exist within the Westphalian nation-state paradigm. Yeah, let's throw down some war college talk. Independent countries still follow their own interests. Look, if China needs the antibiotics it's making, it's going to keep them.
That's right.
And do you really blame it?
This is the thing. At some point, we have to be realistic. We are all motivated of human nature by self-interest.
Yes.
Nations are made of people who are driven by self-interest.
Yeah, the Chinese did not do anything wrong taking advantage of this. We did something wrong refusing to look out for our own interest.
That's exactly right, and it is human nature to say, I have to protect myself at the end of the day, and it is immoral of a nation's leadership to not protect its people and say, if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, we have protected ourselves. And I also am going to make the point in this piece too, Kurt, do you really think our borders, if we hit a true pandemic on the level of Spanish flu where millions and millions of people are dying, do you think our porous borders would actually be able to protect the American people? Of course not.
Well, I was reliably informed that borders are racist and sexist, and I think they're transphobic.
This is insanity. And again, if we've been given a chance. Again,
yes.
Coronavirus not being the big one. We have major weaknesses in our immigration policy, major weaknesses in our manufacturing policy. We need to fix them. And I think this is the message for Trump. First of all, hey, we've got this under control. We're going to take as aggressive measures as possible. We are also going to fix these major problems moving forward. This is why you elected me. I'm going to fix them. This is his message moving forward after this.
I think we're very lucky to have a workhorse rather than a show horse as the National Security Advisor. Friend of the show, Robert O'Brien. He's a friend of mine, an Army vet. I've talked to him at length. He is a smart guy and a guy who will embrace the things that maybe don't get a lot of attention, that maybe don't have a lot of drama, but provide real value, and this is something that needs to be done. Our national security apparatus needs to identify products and capabilities that we need to have within the United States and form a plan to make that happen. This is Kurt Schlichter on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. You're just listening to Ned Ryun of American Greatness. Read everything he writes over there and stick around because we're going to be right back.
Thank you, Kurt Schlichter. Even when I go on vacation, I'm in Hawaii, I'm in the wonderful island state, and I've got my Relief Factor with me. I want to assure you that wherever you are, whether you're in Rhode Island or on Kauai, you ought to be taking ReliefFactor.com. Whether you're running a marathon or going up and down the steps, whatever it is you need, Icarian, Curcumin, Resveratrol, Omega, the 4 supplements that make life easier to get through. If you're on vacation or if you're in the hardest day of work you've ever had, ReliefFactor.com isn't a 1 day, a 1 week, or a 1 month decision. It's a lifetime commitment to better health. And the folks at ReliefFactor.com give you a 3-week trial pack at $19.95 to make it so. Support the temporary relief of the minor aches and pains that plague ordinary living. Don't forget your Relief Factor. Turn around, go back in the house and get it. It's worth the 5 minutes to turn the car around, go back and get your ReliefFactor.com. It doesn't work if you don't take it, and you can't take it if you don't get the starter pack. $19.95 at ReliefFactor.com. I hope Kurt Schlichter takes it. I hope you take it. And whatever you do, come right back for more of Kurt Schlichter filling in here on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
This portion of the Hugh Hewitt Show is brought to you by Axiom Tax Resolution.
This is Kurt Schlichter guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. That's Garbage with Stupid Girl, the bumper music I selected because a little later I'm going to be talking about AOC. Now, I have received some criticism, including from fellow attorneys, about my choice of bumper music, to which I say, too darn bad.
To which we say, stand in line.
Exactly. Look, I'm in the command module. I am at the helm. And we are warp factor 10 or something. I don't know. I'm not a Star Trek guy, but we're all ahead on my music.
Warp factor 10's pretty darn quick.
Is it?
Yeah.
Compared to warp factor 1?
Yeah.
Is it like an AR-14 is one less AR than an AR-15? Because I'm unclear. But what I am clear about is our duty to help people who don't have as much as we do. Look. We've got problems here in the United States, but one problem we don't have is the kind of grinding poverty you see in the third world. We're in the middle of Hugh's spring campaign to help get food and clean drinking water to starving kids in Guatemala through our friends at Food for the Poor. You can help just by going to HughHewitt.com and click on the Feed Starving Families banner to make a tax-deductible gift. It is tough to come face-to-face with actual mothers in remote villages in Guatemala where children are going hungry every single day. But Food for the Poor's Alice Marino recently did just that.
I just cannot imagine going through what they go through every single day. These mothers want the same thing that us as mothers want for our children. If I was born into poverty like that, would I have the strength to do what they do? And that to me just reminds me, God, thank you for bringing them to us so they can remind us and make us humble.
As Alice says, we can be humble, but also give back. Please, right now, just go to HughHewitt.com or call 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE. $320 provides a hungry family of 4 with food for a year and water for life. Thank you very much for helping us feed starving families through our friends at Food for the Poor. Now, I really quickly want to tell you about something that's very important. Axiom tax resolution. You've owed the IRS a ton of money for a long time, and now they're turning up the heat. You're starting to get scared. Frankly, you should be. Perry Cronin of Axiom Tax Resolution told us that most folks get in over their heads with the IRS because of a terrible life event. Maybe it's a divorce, tough business year. I'm a small business owner. I know some years are better than others. A death, maybe, but rarely is it because of wrongdoing. It's just that life threw you a curveball and left you paralyzed. It doesn't have to be that way. Sadly, the IRS doesn't care why you owe them. Their sole focus is to get after you and get the money, plus penalties, plus interest. But our friend Perry Cronin does care, and he'll do everything within his power to help you get out of this situation. If there's a solution, he'll find it. We highly recommend that you call Perry at 844-8-TAX-PRO. That's toll-free, 844-8-TAX-PRO. Or contact Axiom Tax Resolution online at axtaxhelp.com. That's axtaxhelp.com. axtaxhelp.com for Axiom Tax Resolution. Let's get right to our gal, AOC, cut number 10.
Honestly, it sounds almost so silly to say, but there's a lot of restaurants that are feeling the pain of racism, where people are literally not patroning Chinese restaurants. They're not patroning Asian restaurants because of just straight up racism around the coronavirus. So,
have you patroned lately?
Are you patroning? Hey, is it also racist not to drinking Corona beer? Now, I won't drink Corona beer because it's a terrible beer. I will drink Dos Equis. I will drink Modelo. I will drink Carta Blanca. I love Mexican beer, but I won't drink Pacifico. And I will not drink Corona, and it has nothing to do with the virus. But is my failure to drink in Corona racist against beer? I don't know. Are you not patroning things because of your inherent racism, people? AOC seems to think so. Patroning. Look, can we just speak English?
I don't think we can.
Well,
that's racist.
You know, she's got a degree from a relatively reputable college. which supports my contention that we must burn academia to the ground. Did you know my college, UC San Diego, where I graduated and left, and to which there was much rejoicing.
Summa cum drinki?
Let me tell you, I majored in Coors Light and hotties. So I was a communications major. I had a minor. I also majored in political science. Anyway, they have canceled classes. Everybody's doing it online. Yale is apparently doing it. Harvard's doing it.
Because
I encourage
of one
this.
case.
There's one case in San Diego. I encourage college students not to go to college because colleges are a giant factory of leftist conformity that generates nothing but stupid people with huge debts that they now expect me to pay. No thanks. No thanks. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. Stick around. Top of next hour, Jim Hanson.
Morning Glory, America. It's Hugh Hewitt on Wednesday, March the 11th. The results are in from primaries across the country, and I am studying them, well, from a hotel lounge in Hawaii. Kurt Schlichter's been up all night trying to figure out what to tell you about this, and he indeed will do that right now. I want to thank him in advance for serving 3 days in the line of fire right here. Colonel Kurt, always a pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. I sure appreciate this opportunity to guest host on the Hugh Hewitt radio program here in the Relief Factor studio in beautiful Southern California at dark 30. Who am I? I'm a retired United States Army colonel. I'm the senior columnist for Town Hall, and I am a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer. Hey, from the creators of I Can Only Imagine, based on the inspiring true story, I Still Believe, the movie. It's coming out. It's starring A.J. Appa, Britt Robertson, Shania Twain, and friend of the show, Gary Sinise. It's rated PG, parental guidance suggested. It's in theaters March 13th. Check it out. And check this out. It's always a pleasure to have another guy who's a veteran of the United States Army and airborne qualified join me on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. It's my friend, Jim Hanson. Jim, remember when we used to carry AR-14s in the Army? Weapons of war?
Yeah, I'm hiding mine in the backyard right now for when Beto O'Rourke comes to try and confiscate them.
Yeah, the fascist furry from Waco. Just what we need, right?
You know it.
Now, look, we got a lot of there are a lot of things we could talk about. We could talk about Afghanistan. We can talk about the tragic loss of 2 Marine raiders in Iraq, how that's still going on. But I think first we've got to look at what's happening with Joe Biden. It's pretty clear he's going to, quote-unquote, win the nomination. I want to ask you something. And this is a pure hypothetical, not related to anything that's going on right now. If you had been naive and believed that, if you worked hard and voted for your anti-establishment candidate, that your vote would be counted and that the establishment would respect your decision and it wouldn't be stolen from you, and yet it was stolen from you, would you fall in line and vote for the feisty fossil they foisted upon you?
Dude, I have been using the hashtag Democrat Civil War for the past couple months because we all
the last Civil War was a Democrat civil war, so that's super appropriate.
There you go. Everybody knew we're going to screw Bernie over. There was no question about it. No matter how well he did, the second they saw that he was a danger to the Democrat establishment, they were going to take him down. And they did it. They cheated the system. They cheated their own system. So, I mean, sure, they didn't, technically break any laws or anything, but they cheated their own voters. And I have a feeling that when they get to Milwaukee for their convention, that Antifa and the rest of the crazy left, which is a significant portion of the Democrat Party now, may burn that town down.
Well, look, I think they're a bunch of sissies. I think they're just going to take it. Jim Hanson, I think all the Bernie bros are going to fall in line and obediently vote for this desiccated weirdo that's going to get allegedly get the nomination, although he's really a meat puppet, being controlled on a string from the establishment of the DMC. I think they're too weak and cowardly to stand up for your rights. What do you think?
Well, I think they are not likely to come out and vote at all if they don't have the guts to actually. But I think some of them will go crazy. I think we will definitely get some quality 1968 style riots. Unfortunately, Milwaukee's right up the road from Chicago, who has had that experience before. But I think you're right to an extent that they're not going to fight it inside in a way that changes anything. So we're going to have a guy who is incapable of operating even as a candidate for more than 10 minutes at a time. He's got to be the happiest guy about coronavirus of anyone, or at least his handlers are, because now they can cancel events and they can keep him out of the public eye, and not have him bumbling around looking like Grandpa Simpson yelling at clouds.
Yeah, this guy's less Abe Lincoln than Abe Simpson. I think for the next 3 months, they're going to treat microphones with Joe Biden like Dracula treats crucifixes and garlic.
Well, they can't afford to have him. I mean, he's at that stage where, as we saw with the auto workers he was yelling at, he's an insult factory where if you don't immediately jump into line with him, he's yelling at you, telling you to get off his lawn, and threatening to beat you up.
He's like an unfunny and incoherent Don Rickles.
I think the fun part, though, is we're going to get to watch how the Democrats actually have to twice in one campaign season game their system, because they can't actually put him up against Trump.
No,
oh my God,
the debate's good. If he actually gets nominated, if he doesn't mysteriously fall out for some reason, and have somebody like perhaps Felonious Milhouse von Pantsuit parachute in to quote unquote save the party, there's 0% chance he's going to do a debate. There'll be I'm not going to give that racist a platform. Yeah. Okay.
An excuse.
Yeah. Okay, Joe. Here's the thing. And you've been an observer of politics for a long time. Did you ever think you would see the day where a Democrat politician, party of the working man, allegedly, is sitting there wagging his finger at a guy, literally dressed as a construction worker or a assembly line guy, because that's what he is. And he's wagging and he's mad because this peasant is questioning his Highness Joe Biden, the demigod of Dover, the credit card king.
The fun thing about it is Biden was the only one in that party right now, in that collection of liberal, progressive, and socialist elites, who had a prayer of reaching out to any of the blue-collar Democrats with an ounce of credibility. And now he just threw that away. And it's hilarious to watch people like Chris Cillizza from CNN trying to say this was actually a great moment for Biden. He showed that he's not just a passive candidate. He showed that he'll stand up for his ideas.
Oh, yeah, right. Chris Cillizza. Yeah, I prefer to take my political insights from a guy with upper body strength.
Or a body, period. Yeah, I mean, you don't reach out to people in the blue-collar factory worker crowd by telling them that they're full of it.
Well, that
is not a usual technique for winning over the Rust Belt voters.
But I don't think they're interested in that anymore, Jim Hanson. I think they are interested in a whole new demographic, woke college students, government flunkies, frustrated, divorced, middle-aged women whose husbands just said, I'm done with you. I don't think they want any kind of, traditionally masculine kind of working class kind of guys who actually build things or defend things. I think they've written that all off. And, of course, Trump grew up around these guys. Trump speaks their language. And I think, more importantly, Trump respects them.
And they can tell Trump likes them.
Yes.
That's the thing. He, for whatever reason, the billionaire in the race, the one now left fighting the millionaire and the government corruptocrat, he relates to him. And I think you're absolutely right. The Democrats have no rapport with actual productive class people.
I'm not even sure they want a rapport with them.
Class.
I think, Jim Hanson, Security Studies Group, I think they find people like that factory or like that working class guy to be morally inferior. I don't think they want to be in a coalition with them.
Do not. They would send us to re-education camps, and have us retrain so that our beliefs now fit their new world and identity politics, liberal grievance mongering model.
Well,
great.
Did you see how unrepentantly cisgender that man was?
He was definitely bearded and had calluses on his hands. And the best thing is, of the coalition you mentioned, they're throwing away a large cohort, which is the blue-collar Democrats, the former union guys. The young, Bernie bros and people like that don't vote reliably. That's the best thing. The people who do are those blue-collar Democrats and all the people who can actually do math and understand that free stuff and government spending is not the way to go. So those people will definitely be out to vote, and they traded it for a coalition. Now the angry cat ladies will vote. We know that. But other than that, they don't have a full-form coalition that can take down Donald J. Trump. Not a chance.
We only have about 30 seconds left. and I wish we got to it a little earlier. What do you think of the pullout that's just begun from Afghanistan?
I've been in favor of it for a long time. We don't have a definable victory or any way to get to it. We've been there close to 2 decades. And the Afghans are going to have to take care of this themselves. If they, bring the terrorists back in, we can always come back and start flattening the villages that support them.
Well, thank you, Jim Hanson, president of the Security Studies Group. You can follow him at Jim Hanson with an O, DC on Twitter, and you should. And you should also stay put here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. We're going to be right back.
The Hugh Hewitt Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
That theme music can only mean one thing here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter. It means we're going to be talking about Joe Biden in this segment. I sure talk about him tomorrow in my town hall column on Joe Biden. You'll want to check that out Thursday. It's a good one. I tend to be a bit, what's the right word, mean. And I have to say, this may be my meanest article yet. Because Joe Biden really distinguished himself yesterday, wagging his finger in the face of that working class guy who simply wanted some answers from a job applicant, which is what Joe Biden is. But Joe Biden doesn't think so. No, Joe Biden thinks he's a senator of 36 years. He thinks he's important. He thinks he matters. I think he's a subordinate. Let's review the chain of command, shall we? God, that American citizen who wanted questions, that alleged public servant, Joe Biden. But we all really understand who Joe Biden really represents. He represents the credit card companies and the establishment, not regular folks. But regular folks are the heart and soul of the United States. Regular folks built this country, defend this country, feed this country, fuel this country, but not only this country. Regular folks like you, like me, get out there and help people around the world. And that's what I want to talk to you right now about. We're in the middle of Hugh's spring campaign to help get food and clean drinking water to starving kids in Guatemala through our friends at Food for the Poor. You can help just by going to HughHewitt.com and click on the Feeding Starving Families banner to make a tax-deductible gift. I make gifts to the Food for the Poor. I'm a trial lawyer and I'm Scottish. And if I can do it, you can do it. And you must. It's tax deductible, and it is, it's tough to come face to face with actual mothers in remote villages in Guatemala where children are going hungry every day. But Food for the Poor's Alice Marino recently did just that.
I just cannot imagine going through what they go through every single day. These mothers want the same thing that us as mothers want for our children. If I was born into poverty like that, would I have the strength to do what they do? And that to me just reminds me, God, thank you for bringing them to us so they can remind us and make us humble.
As Alice says, we can be humble, but also give back. Please, right now, just go to HughHewitt.com or call 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE. $320 provides a family of four with food for a year and water for life. Thank you very much for helping us feed starving families through our friends at Food for the Poor. Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders. Looks like the cage match is on the way to ending. But are the Bernie bros going to just roll over like the sissies they are? Let's listen to Terry Moran of ABC News.
That's right. So here, this is a pretty good turnout for a watch party, which is essentially what it is here in Detroit. And there's undoubtedly a sense of disappointment. You can hear it. Some people talking about the corruption of the Democratic Party, what they see as the establishment getting behind Joe Biden. But most people having a sense, he's run the race. He's run the good race, Bernie Sanders has, and changed the way Democrats think about health care and other issues as well. The question is, will they vote? Will they fight for a Joe Biden candidacy? Many are very worried. You talk to people, they're worried about what they fear is Trump will slice Joe Biden up in debate because they sense a feebleness, frankly, in Joe Biden, as do a lot of voters, as does the Trump campaign. We'll see if that comes about.
I can't help it, but I enjoy their pain, and they're accepting their pain, and they're willing to take their pain, and they love to taste the pain of their own personal humiliation.
assume the position.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Learning the iron discipline of the Democratic National Committee. You will conform. You will obey. You will vote for the feisty, festering fossil that is Joe Biden. Welcome to the machine. We'll be up again. We'll be right back with Representative Mike Gallagher here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I'm guest host Kurt Schlichter.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 1 minute and 45 seconds.
I don't know. Can Joe Biden beat Donald Trump? I don't know. I'm Kurt Schlichter sitting in here for Hugh Hewitt in the Relief Factor studio. We hope to be joined by Representative Mike Gallagher, but he may be called away on important congressional business. In the meantime, I don't know. I don't know nothing. I don't know. Joe Biden win. I don't know. We'll nominate him. I don't know. Let's hear from Maxine Waters, cut number 19.
Who do you like most compared to the Biden and Bernie?
It's not about who you like. It's about now watching and understanding who can beat Trump.
Do you think Biden has what it takes to beat Trump?
I don't know, but we'll see.
I don't know. We'll see. We sure will see.
But what does it say about Maxine when she says it's not about who you like? Well, isn't that the argument that we made about John McCain when John McCain got his head handed to him? It's not about who you like. It's, well,
fall in line.
Fall in line.
Fall in line.
And that worked out how
Bob
well?
Dole fell in line. Bob Dole. Joe Biden. I'm waiting for Joe Biden to start busting out the third person. Joe Biden doesn't talk like that. Joe Biden's not going to put up with that squirrel's antics anymore. Joe Biden can't find a shoe. Joe Biden. How do you think Joe Biden's going to stand up against Donald Trump? Let's see how Donald Trump on MSNBC stood up against the tiresome Katie Tour. It's cut number 22.
The Pew Research, which is independent, says...
Don't be naive. You're a very naive person.
The Pew Research says that there are, for immigrants on the whole,
Come on, try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I'll get it out.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to put this on television, but you don't even know what you're talking about. Try getting it out. Go ahead.
Oh, my gosh. He's going to pummel Joe Biden. Now, of course, should Joe Biden be allowed to accept the nomination and Felonia Milhouse Von Pantsuit not come in and take it from him by surprise because of some because like a week before the convention, as you suggested, producer Dwayne, the DNC comes out of its coma and suddenly realizes we can't possibly do this. We can't possibly do this, and puts her in. He's going to mop the floor with Joe.
Joe Biden will lapse about half an hour into that first debate, and he's going to start doing "Where's the outrage?"
Where's the outrage? Well, and then he's going to lose, and then the Viagra ads, and it's going to be horrible. Michael Moore is coming to grips with the fact that the fix is in, with the fact this is a done deal.
Sorta.
They're going down the Biden Boulevard. It's cut number 23.
Or Trump. But I think Trump has just pummeled this country so badly. And I know, I mean, I live in Michigan, so I'm familiar with how people feel. They're frightened. They're demoralized. There is a malaise that has spread across this country and certainly throughout Michigan. And people can't take one more day of this. The fact that this coronavirus has driven home just how much danger we're in with this individual in the White House, that I think people just didn't want to. Asking people to do two things, get rid of Trump and get rid of the system, political and economic system that gave us Trump. That, I think, was too much to ask probably for people who are just like, can we just get rid of Trump? Please. And I understand that.
So what he just said there was Democrat voters are stupid.
Well, they
can't walk and chew gum. Well, they can only do one thing.
Well, look. Let's test your hypothesis that Democrat voters are stupid by, for instance, listening to perhaps the most famous of the new Democrats, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Let's see. I want to test your. We love science here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. We love science. We are not going to deny science. Let us test your theory, producer Dwayne, that Democrats are stupid by seeing how smart someone they embrace wholeheartedly is. This would be cut number 10.
Honestly, it sounds almost so silly to say, but there's a lot of restaurants that are feeling the pain of racism, where people are literally not patroning Chinese restaurants. They're not patroning Asian restaurants because of just straight up racism around the coronavirus. So
I went to dictionary.com and put in patroning. Results for patroning: palladium, labyrinthine, ice blink,
labyrinthine,
impresario. They unrecognized. They have dictionary.com.
It's not a word.
Does not know what patroning is because it's not English.
It sounds like one of those kind of Kinsey consultant things that Pete Buttigieg might have come up with. He's a guy who uses the word impactful without irony. And it's, I used to call them Stalloneisms because Sylvester Stallone was always very, back in the 80s, because I'm old, was always very concerned that people wouldn't think he was a smart guy. So he would try and use big words, but he'd use them wrong. So I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez actually thinks she's smart by using the word patroning, which is not a word, not in English. Maybe it's Latin. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I do not know.
It would be patronizing.
I don't know. She is patronizing.
But that's the word I think she was looking for.
I think that is the word she's looking. She's just not a smart lady.
She really isn't.
And you got Joe Biden. I want you to hear Joe Biden in all his glory. They may beep some of this out. But this is Joe Biden wagging his finger in the face of a hardworking American working guy.
Winning friends and influencing people.
Well, they're the party of the working man,
yes.
And it's apparently they're the party of telling the working man to shut up and obey. It's cut number 1.
How you intend on getting the union vote when there's a large portion of the union workers that are gun enthusiasts, and you are actively trying to diminish our Second Amendment right and take away our guns.
All right, thank you. No, shush. I support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire, that's not free speech. And from the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my sons hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapon. I'm not taking your gun away at all. You need 100 rounds.
So when you were in Beto, when you said you're going to take our guns,
I did not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
It's a viral video.
It's a viral video like the other ones they're putting out that are simply a lie.
Your voice, you said that you're taking the guns.
Well, he just clarified it. Wait. Take your AR-14s.
Okay, this is not okay. Hold on. All right.
Hey, let's don't tell me this, pal. I want to go outside.
There's a lot of guys.
I'll take you outside. I'll take your AR-14, which is one AR less than an AR-15.
It's a draft pick away from a full AR-15.
It's what.
Notice, by the way, he said
it's one. We need to find the Spinal Tap goes to 11 clip.
Notice, by the way, that he said both of his sons hunt.
I did notice that. Now, one of them, the good one, has passed to his reward.
One son doesn't hunt anymore.
How stupid do you have to be to give Hoover Biden a gun?
Isn't Hoover Biden a felon because he got convicted of?
I'm sorry. I was snorting.
Yeah,
in honor
doesn't
of
he
Hoover.
doesn't he have a drug conviction?
No, he doesn't have a drug conviction, but he is a drug user. And I consulted with the great Cam Edwards yesterday. He is a gun guru, personal friend of mine, and of the show's. And I said, look, I remember when I bought my many guns because I'm a man and have many guns. You've met Irina, haven't you, my wife?
I have not.
You have never met Irina?
No. The one time that we dined out in the canyon.
That's right. She didn't come along.
It was just you and I think Q and I, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, my wife is a immigrant from Cuba. Because all conservatives are giant racist, sexist, imperialists who hate immigrants. And she's also hot because she was an ex-model. She once told me, I don't own enough guns. How hot is that?
Well, that I could think of worse.
Well, in any case, when you buy a gun, you have to acknowledge that you are and affirm that you are not a drug user, that you have not used illegal drugs, that you do not use illegal drugs. Hunter Biden cannot do that. He was booted out of the Navy, which he never should have been allowed in anyway. Booted out of the Navy because the first time he shows up for his reserve drill, he takes a urine test and, as we used to say in the service, pees hot. The first time. Here's his planning process. Here's the guy that Joe Biden allows to have a gun. Yeah, I think I'm going to join the Navy, and I'm going to prep for it by huffing a couple rails. Probably bad decision-making on Hunter Biden's part. What's that say about Joe? Now, I will submit to you that this hard-working construction guy who's very concerned about the Second Amendment, which Joe Biden doesn't understand, it's like yelling fire in a theater. Only idiots use that as an example, by the way, when you're talking about free speech. It's not a Second Amendment issue. It's a free speech cliche that dumb people use when they want to keep you from talking. I don't understand. I don't understand why the Democrat Party is going to invest in a guy like Joe Biden, who is manifestly out of it. He is manifestly inept. His failure is complete.
That's why I think at this point they were going to ride this out and see if he has still enough sympathy with the American people. If he doesn't in polling, and it looks like he's going to get crushed the closer we get to July when the Milwaukee convention is for the DNC, I'm telling you, the DNC has already manipulated this once. Don't manipulate it again.
The fix is in, folks, and you Bernie bros are just going to take it. You simpering sissies. You'll whine, you'll complain, then you'll fall in line because you're weak. Prove me wrong. I'm Kurt Schlichter, substituting for the great Hugh Hewitt. I will be back in just a moment.
Thank you, Kurt. Time to remind people about Sierra Pacific, andrewandtodd.com, andrewandtodd.com. Their phone number, no matter where you are in the country, is 888-888-1172. No matter where you are in the country, interest rates remain ridiculously low. No matter where you are in the country, from Hawaii, where I'm vacationing, to Alexandria, Virginia, where all those Seattle people are moving because of Amazon headquarters moving to Alexandria, you need to call andrewandtodd.com at 888-888-1172 and say, I need to buy a house, or I need to refinance a house. And especially if you need to consolidate debt, this is about, 10 percentage points cheaper than a credit card. Are you crazy? You should not have credit card debt or car debt or any kind of debt at all. If you've got a house, you got to refinance at these interest rates. I don't know if they've done Kurt's house or not, but they should. Kurt, you ought to call up Andrew and Todd at 888-888-1172. Give Andrew and Todd a call today, 888-888-1172. Trust them, as I do, as thousands of you have. 888-888-1172. You can trust Relief Factor when it comes to making you feel better every single day. Your back, your neck, whatever bothers you, especially when you're prone in the car. Not prone, I hope you're not prone in the car. Sitting up straight in the car, but wiggling around because your back hurts or your knees hurts or your ankles are barking at you. ReliefFactor.com would have worked overnight to make that easier on you. Icarian, curcumin, resveratrol, and omega, 4 natural supplements so carefully orchestrated, so carefully put together to make it just the perfect combination of the natural supplements that make your body breathe a little bit easier, get your health a little bit better, support the temporary relief of the minor aches and pains that plague ordinary living. Don't forget your Relief Factor. Turn around, go back in the house and get it. It's worth the 5 minutes to turn the car around, go back, open up the garage door, go inside and get your ReliefFactor.com. It doesn't work if you don't take it, and you can't take it if you don't get the starter pack. $19.95 at ReliefFactor.com. I hope Kurt Schlichter takes it. I hope you take it. And whatever you do, come right back for more of Kurt Schlichter filling in here on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Don't forget to sign up for the Hugh-niverse. All of Hugh's broadcasts on demand, the after show, which in my opinion is worth the price all by itself, Dwayne FM, and all sorts of bonus content. www.hugh-niverse.com.
We're back on the Hugh Hewitt radio program. Lost in the Supermarket, bumper music for Joe Biden. It's the Dwayne is looking at me funny.
Which
it's
version
not the
is
class
this?
version.
I was going to say
Afghan Wigs cover version.
It's too slow.
Now it's good.
It's too slow.
It's a little slow, but it's still okay. It's a good version. And Lost in the Supermarket really works in the sense that Joe Biden is lost in the supermarket, in the park. He's lost in his hotel room trying to find that pesky slipper that keeps getting lost. He's lost.
You know the Joe Laro thing that we did?
Yes, I do.
And, I've got a...
If I ever have a whole segment I can't fill, we'll just Joe Laro it. It's a verb. It's like patroning.
It's like patroning.
Joe Laroing.
I had 63 Joe Biden cuts for the original Joe Laro. You want to hear the latest 3 that are going to appear?
Let's hear them.
Here is just random Joe Biden.
Random Joe
that I found. They don't have to be this week. They're just these are new ones.
I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
What?
I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again.
I got one more.
You had people like Margaret Thatcher. Excuse me. You had people like the former chairman and leader of the party in Germany.
What? Thatcher, Merkel. Well, Margaret and Merkel. They're bipeds. They both identify as female. That's close. Right? I mean, look, Joe's all there. Just ask Maxine Waters, cut number 19.
Who do you like most compared to the Biden and Bernie?
It's not about who you like. It's about now watching and understanding who can beat Trump.
Do you think Biden has what it takes to beat Trump?
I don't know, but we'll see.
Wow. James Clyburn, Congressman Clyburn on NPR, he's got a solution to the problem that is Joe Biden. That's cut number 17.
I think we will be at a point where Joe Biden will be the prohibitive nominee of the party, and I think the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, should then step in, make an assessment, and determine whether or not they ought to have any more debates.
Or in other words,
brave Sir Robin. He's gonna run away from a debate like like a Bernie bro from a job. He's not. Oh, this guy's not there. He's not going to debate Donald Trump because Donald Trump will tear him apart. Donald Trump will disassemble him and reassemble him in a new and lesser form.
Did we play the clip from last night's victory speech in Philadelphia? Did we play that one yet?
Oh, let's play that.
We want to play, Ben, cut number... what do we want to play? 20. The first one of the... Yeah, 20. Let's play 20.
All right, our headquarters is just around the corner. And these are all people who are working like the devil to try to get us elected as the... So I want to thank
what?
I'm sorry, what?
Get him elected to what?
What? What are you going to be? Senator? Dog catcher? Vice president? Any running for vice president now? That's cut number 15.
The folks who brought me back were an overwhelming support from African Americans, significant support from, and by the way, in each of these Super Tuesday primaries, we raised turnout exponentially across the board.
Okay, I'm sorry. I mixed up cuts, but that was an important one too. He's exponentially increased turnout. First of all, it's substantively untrue. Second of all, what the hell is exponentially?
I refuse to patroning exponentially.
I think we need to hear from his potential running mate, who has also mastered the English language. Cut 10.
Honestly, it sounds almost so silly to say, but there's a lot of restaurants that are feeling the pain of racism, where people are literally not patroning Chinese restaurants. They're not patroning Asian restaurants because of just straight up racism around the coronavirus.
If they are on the ticket together, I think we are going to hear patroning used to
exponentially more than it is now.
Exactly, I think
which
so.
would be once.
Yes, I think so.
Oh my gosh, all these people are terrible. They're terrible, and yet this is going to be the guy the Democrats are going to cart out to be the next president of the United States.
But at least we know he's serious about education. Quick, cut 21.
Providing every child access to good education, regardless of their
What was
zip
that?
code.
Is that denture malfunction?
It was either that or a yawn, because it was late for Joe. It was late at night.
Yeah, he needs to be in bed with his binky at 9 p.m. All right, this is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. I want you to stick around. We got a lot more coming up.
Providing every child access to good education, regardless of their zip code. Providing every child access to good education, regardless of their zip code. Providing every child access to good education, regardless of their zip code. Regardless of their zip code. Child access to good education, regardless of zip code. Providing every child access to good education, regardless of their zip code.
Morning Glory America. It's Hugh Hewitt on Wednesday, March the 11th. The results are in from primaries across the country, and I am studying them, well, from a hotel lounge in Hawaii. Kurt Schlichter's been up all night trying to figure out what to tell you about this, and he indeed will do that right now. I want to thank him in advance for serving 3 days in the line of fire right here. Colonel Kurt, always a pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Hugh Hewitt. Enjoy your vacation. I am Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at Town Hall, retired United States Army colonel, a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer, and I am monitoring the nomination race. Joe Biden, 823 delegates. Bernie Sanders, 663. Needed to win, 1991. The fix is in. It's going to be Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden, I don't even think he's Joe Biden anymore. Let's get more perspective from the Trump 2020 campaign from its principal deputy communications director, Erin Perinne. Erin, how do you guys feel about facing Joe Biden?
Well, we feel very good about where President Trump stands in terms of re-election. Last night, we saw another record-breaking night in terms of support for President Trump in a truly uncontested primary for him. The vote total for President Trump set a record in Michigan for the most votes ever received for an incumbent president. And by comparison, it's 340% of the vote higher of the vote total than President Obama received in 2012. It doesn't matter who the Democrat nominee is. It's pretty clear that the Democrat establishment put their thumb heavily on the scale to try and lift up Joe Biden in his very failing campaign. They've managed to do that, and you've seen Democrats come out in the last 12 hours or so saying, okay, we should cancel the primaries now and put everybody behind Joe Biden. They have clearly made their choice, and they're trying to silence the voters on the Democrat side. Doesn't matter who we face, President Trump has the policies, the success in the campaign to win again in 2020.
Well, it seems to me, I'm a graduate of the United States Army War College, and I try and think about strategy. You have to have a different strategy to face Bernie Sanders from facing Joe Biden. You're going to face some real challenges with Joe Biden. For instance, they are going to keep him so far from a microphone that we're never going to hear from this guy. And here's my bet. They cancel the debate with the President of the United States. They're afraid to face Donald Trump. What do you think?
They should be afraid to face Donald Trump. Joe Biden is a terrible candidate, has been for over 30 years, and needed the Democrat establishment to come in and try and push him across the finish line because he clearly wasn't winning this on his own. Listen, it doesn't matter who we face because the Bernie Sanders wing of the party, his policies about big government takeover of things like health care and of energy and of eliminating fossil fuels and about trying to take away guns from rightful gun owners, that is the thought process that is now dictating where the Democrat primary base is going. And you see that with Joe Biden. It doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden has had to go and say, I would allow for a public option on health care. A public option on health care would slowly eliminate public or private health insurance in this country. So you'd hear Joe Biden again say, if you like your doctor, you can keep it, and not be able to deliver on that. You compare that with President Trump and his record of success. When we look at the fact that short-term limited duration plans for health insurance are now available because of the work President Trump has done, stabilizing the markets on cost increases. President Trump is delivering for the American people. It doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden or anybody else.
Like I said, I'm an Army or ex-Army colonel. I like strategy. And it seems to me you have a strategic choice here. You can focus on policy, which you've been talking about, and Donald Trump's unbroken track record of success. He's frankly stunned many of us. Look, I was a regular conservative. I didn't understand Donald Trump until he made promises and kept them. And that's why I'm a big supporter of his. But and you can run on that, and that's something we should definitely talk about. But when you have a candidate like Joe Biden, who is so manifestly out of step, so manifestly failing, so manifestly incompetent to perform as a president, and will clearly be a meat puppet for whatever Democrat National Committee establishment types decide to pull his strings, you've got to decide, is the president going to run against Joe Biden, or is he going to run on his record?
Well, we don't see that as a binary choice. We can do both. We can put out a positive, strong, pro-Trump record and run on that. The president is delivering, and that is bringing more voters into the fold for the president and more supporters. We see it every time we do a rally, where between 20 and 25% of the registrants are Democrats. That's the record-speaking results when it comes to people coming into the fold for this campaign. And we can very easily run against Joe Biden as a candidate. Not only is he a terrible candidate, but he's got an abysmal track record as a legislator and as vice president of the United States. We can go into a state like Michigan where manufacturing jobs are hugely important and talk about what NAFTA did, talk about what TPP did, talk about the failed policies of the Obama-Biden administration, of Joe Biden as a senator, and say, look at the contrast. It could not be clearer. We are on the path for a strong change in this country thanks to President Trump's policies, one that make this country better for generations to come. Or you can let the D.C. swamp and the liberal establishment like Joe Biden, who is a decades-old politician, try and take things back, try to take away choice and freedom. We don't see that it has to be a binary choice. We can run on both.
Yesterday, we saw something that I think is kind of remarkable. We saw a Democrat politician go confront a union worker who had questions and concerns, wags his finger at him, swears at him, threatens him, talks about AR-14s, whatever the hell those are. I thought the Democrats were the party of the working class. Turns out we have a New York billionaire who's more connected to the working class than the head of the party of the working class. How'd that happen?
Well, Democrats have completely lost touch with America and what matters to Americans. They think that if they scream and they yell, that that's somehow going to change how people feel about the fact that under Democrat leadership, we saw jobs leaving this country. We saw America taking a step backwards because they were more worried about the swamp than they were about American people. And Joe Biden stood there and threatened to assault the man because he didn't have a good answer about where he actually stands on firearms and the Second Amendment in this country. The Second Amendment is just as important as the First Amendment. You will continue to see President Trump not only advocate for the Second Amendment in this country, but for union workers to say, hey, listen, Medicare for all and whatever subsidiary of it that Democrats try to put forward isn't going to work because those union negotiated for benefits that they fought so hard for would be gone when the government took over the health care system. You know, Joe Biden is a bad candidate, and so he thinks that his half sentences and his screaming at a union worker, a voter, is somehow going to change minds and hearts. He talks about how he wants to elevate the conversation in this country, and he's certainly, you know, his words are certainly not matching his actions on this.
We've seen the Democrat establishment, aided and abetted by the liberal media, pushing the coronavirus as the next great hope to finally get Trump. We had Russia, we had emoluments, we had Ukraine. Now it's the Chinese virus. And yes, I know I'm not supposed to call it the Chinese virus, even though it's a virus from China. How is the president getting his message out about our response to the coronavirus?
Well, the safety, security, and health of the American people is the president's top priority. And you see that because every day they are bringing in key stakeholders to the White House. They are allowing the press to come in and do, you know, have conversations and ask questions of the president and listen in on part of these meetings. And then there are almost daily updates from the vice president who is, you know, helping run the coronavirus task force to make sure that there is plenty of information out there, that the American people know exactly what the federal government is doing to make sure that there are access to resources, access to care, and that America continues to move forward even in the face of the coronavirus. This government is as transparent as it has ever been, and that is because President Trump wants to make sure that Americans get the facts and they get them from him, because the media filter, their lens always skews the reporting, always skews the facts. And when the cold hard facts are out there, American people hearing directly from President Trump always respond better. So these daily briefings, these conversations, the updates we get all the time, that's how we're going to make sure the American public know actually what is going on.
Erin Perinne, Principal Deputy Communications Director of Trump 2020. I think our listeners want to know a little about how somebody like you got in the position you are. How did you come to be working for Donald Trump?
So previous to the campaign, I had been on Capitol Hill for 5 years. I had
My condolences.
I'd had the privilege to work for House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, and prior to that, I worked for Senator John Thune of South Dakota. I'd been on the Hill for 5 years, and the campaign reached out a year ago. I've been on the campaign for a year now, which is wild, to see if I'd be interested in coming over and doing some of the press work for the president. And it is my absolute honor every day of my life to be able to share the president's story with the American people.
We only have about 30 seconds. Are you having fun, Erin?
I'm having the best time.
Well, glad to have you working to reelect President Donald Trump, the greatest president of the United States since our beloved Ronald Reagan. This is Kurt Schlichter sitting in for Hugh Hewitt in the Relief Factor studio in beautiful Southern California. I want you to stick around. We got a lot more to come.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show brought to you by Sierra Pacific Mortgage. For more info, call 888-888-1172.
Little 80s music bringing us back into the Hugh Hewitt radio program. I am substitute host Kurt Schlichter, while Hugh Hewitt is somewhere in Hawaii doing Hugh Hewitt things, which include reading Dickens and no doubt obsessively reading and watching the news. I'm watching the news. I'm watching the Dow futures, which are down about 600 after going up over 1,000 yesterday. It's bouncing around with news of coronavirus cases going over 1,000 in the United States. It's really bad in Italy, but is all the news bad? It is not. Only 24 new cases in China yesterday, according to Bloomberg News. Cases are going down in South Korea, too. Looks like they're over the hump. We'll get over the hump, too. My guess is that if we take this seriously and cautiously and coolly deal with it, not as a crisis, but as a problem, in about 2 months, coronavirus will be just a vaguely troubling memory from long ago. Hey, we're in the middle of Hugh's spring campaign to help get food and clean drinking water to starving kids in Guatemala through our friends at Food for the Poor. You can help just by going to HughHewitt.com and clicking on the Feed Starving Families banner to make a tax-deductible gift. It is tough to come face-to-face with actual mothers in remote villages in Guatemala where children are going hungry every day, but Food for the Poor's Alice Marino recently did just that.
I just cannot imagine going through what they go through every single day. These mothers want the same thing that us as mothers want for our children. If I was born into poverty like that, would I have the strength to do what they do? And that to me just reminds me, God, thank you for bringing them to us so they can remind us and make us humble.
As Alice says, we can be humble and also give back. Please, right now, just go to HughHewitt.com and hit the banner or call 855-359-4673. That's 855-359-HOPE. $320 provides a family of four with food for a year and water for life. Thank you very much for helping us feed starving families through our friends at Food for the Poor. Now, it looks like the nominee's going to be Joe Biden. We've been talking a lot about that today, and I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about it down the road. And let me give you a little preview. We may be talking about that in the next segment with Donald Trump Jr. But I want to give you a taste of where Joe Biden's head is at, and it's not on planet Earth. This was him at a factory wagging his finger in the face of an American working man. Cut number one, please.
How you intend on getting the union vote when there is a large portion of the union workers that are gun enthusiasts, and you are actively trying to diminish our Second Amendment right and take away our guns.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush.
Shush.
I support the Second Amendment.
Shush, lady.
Second Amendment, just like right now, if you yell fire,
is that allowed?
Free speech. And from the very beginning, I have a shotgun, I have a 20 gauge, a 12 gauge, my son's hunt. Guess what? You're not allowed to own any weapon.
Wait, he's given guns to Hoover Biden? Did he just say that? And he has an AR-14? This guy is a wreck. He is a catastrophe. He's a mess. And by picking him, the Democrat establishment has completely alienated the Bernie bros. Van Jones is the voice of reason. Here he is on CNN, cut number 16.
Let me just say I think this is a very dangerous moment for the Democratic Party. You have now an insurgency that's about to be defeated. What do you do with the people that you defeat? There was a hope on the part of a lot of young people they had a champion. You got young people who are graduating with $250,000 in debt. You got young people with a lot of pain, and they had a champion. Mm-hmm. And that they thought that they were going to be able to surround a divided establishment with their movement, crush that divided establishment, and move forward. Instead, the establishment united and stopped them. Now what do? Last time Bernie Sanders got beaten, there was an assumption that all these people were just going to fall in line and vote against Trump, and there was not enough care for the concern and the pain of his base. I think tonight there's going to be a lot of crow and a lot of relief.
Their pain is my sugar injected straight into my veins. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. I want you to stick around because I've got a treat for you. Donald Trump Jr. next on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
This portion of The Hugh Hewitt Show is brought to you by Axiom Tax Resolution.
This is Kurt Schlichter on the Hugh Hewitt radio program, playing Motorhead bumper music for the first time ever. The cover of David Bowie's Heroes. I can't think of a better song to sum up my next guest, Donald Trump Jr. Don, can these guys be serious about putting Joe Biden up against your dad?
Well, I put out a tweet yesterday saying basically, I wonder what the Vegas line on him actually showing up to a debate with Trump is. I mean, I imagine after last night, they probably won't let him debate Bernie on Sunday. You saw that he had asked for a chair to sit down during the debate. I mean, this is not a guy that's well. I mean, I've been saying it for weeks, but if Donald Trump made one Joe Biden-like mistake a year, every telepsychologist would be on TV saying he has dementia. When he says the word huge with a Y because he's from Queens, they say he's slurring his words. It's over. 25th Amendment. Let's get him out of there. Joe Biden, it's almost sad, honestly.
It is sad. It's pathetic.
It's not right. Like, it's not like this isn't, it's Joe being Joe. It's so cute. It's a little gaffe. Like, he doesn't remember where he is 50% of the time. 50% of the time. He doesn't, he's confusing his wife and his sister. He forgets what office he's actually running for. It looks like he did it again last night. Like, I mean, it doesn't stop. And like I said, I remember very distinctly 2.5 years ago, when they were trying their 25th Amendment route the first time, they tried to throw my father out of office. It was every television psychologist. Now, those same people, no, I can't get on TV and diagnose someone without having met them. I'm like, well, it didn't stop you from doing it for Trump for months. And by the way, with a lot less evidence. That's the reality. I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I don't want to necessarily diagnose anyone. At the same time, as a sentient being with a brain, you look and you say, oh, yeah, there's a real problem.
Oh, this guy.
Real problem there. This is not like a joke. This is not him being cute. And the media trying to make it so is really sad. And what's more sad is, if it wasn't for his family making millions of offices, elected office for the last few decades, one of them should have stepped in and been like, okay, buddy, like, it's been a good run. Like, let's call this. You know what I mean? But
Don, this guy is a catastrophe. He is a disaster. He is utterly in decline. He is Abe Simpson without the coherence or the cleverness. Look, you just said you doubt that this guy will show up for a debate with your dad. Is he going to show up to be nominated? Are the Democrats actually going to nominate this guy? Or, as some people have speculated about a week before, there's going to be some reason or justification. He's going to pull out. Somebody's going to parachute in.
Yeah, I mean, you almost see like Hillary setting herself up for that one right now. You got the Hulu thing conveniently dropped. She's getting more vocal again. Now she it's sort of typical of Hillary, and that's why it seems like it would make sense. Like, she doesn't really want to do any of the work. She just sort of wants the role, right? She doesn't want to have to campaign. She doesn't want to have to be with the peons around the country, the little people. She doesn't want to have to interact with them and do the retail component. She just wants to be able to come in and be like, okay, I'm the nominee. Let's go win. Give me billions of dollars in the role. So it wouldn't surprise me at all, because honestly, like, I don't know how in good faith the Democrats could really even put this guy up as a real candidate, especially given everything they've said over the last few years. They're going to put up a guy that any reasonable individual could look at and say is, on the steep end of the downward curve, of senility. And
he's on the cutting edge of the bell curve. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're going to give him the nuclear football. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Hey, I mean, I know the Democrats don't seem to love America, but they hate it that much. Like, it seems crazy.
Well, let's war game out this scenario, Don Jr. Let's war game it out with Hillary Clinton, because I don't see anybody else who can do this. I don't see anybody else who can parachute in to save the party from the disaster that will be Joe Biden as the nominee. How do they justify this to the Bernie bros?
I don't know that you can. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, I've seen plenty of these Bernie bros around and whatever it is. The reality, I mean, I've had them come up to me and be like, hey, if it's not my guy, I'm voting for your guy. I'm like, really? Like,
well, your dad's the outsider. Your dad is the candidate of change.
They're anti-establishment, and candidly, no one's more anti-establishment than Trump. Even still, without question. Certainly not Bernie, who's, in all fairness, he's been there for 30 years. He hasn't done anything. He sort of figured out an interesting marketing gimmick last time around, got a little bit of a base, promising everyone free shit, and, went from there. But it's a little different than actually, being an outsider when you've said, hey, I've had this job for 30 years.
Are you wargaming out
my father on trade and on stuff like that as well, where he's actually sort of aligned with Bernie?
Donald Trump Jr.? Are you wargaming out a Hillary scenario or another scenario where Joe Biden is subbed out?
We're not. Not because it's not likely to happen, but because right now it doesn't matter. We just got to play the hand that we're dealt. We'll think about all of those things. The reality is, our campaign's always going to be a little, different than like a DNC type campaign. We still have Donald Trump at the helm. He's sort of the fastest guy on his feet. He likes to change. He's, impulsive, and I think that's where it's always interesting in that you don't know where he's going to come from at any given second. And so, we haven't been, but there's no question that that's hell. In my mind, that's as likely a scenario as it is, just running against Joe Biden, period.
Would you call it 50-50 that they sub Joe Biden out and the president has to either fight Hillary Clinton or somebody else?
I mean, that's sort of what I just said. Yes. I mean, I can't imagine them actually going through this with a straight face. Now, maybe they think, hey, he's likable enough, and if we, you saw that they already cut his stump speech, right? They cut it a while ago to 15 minutes. Now it's 7 minutes. I mean, think about that. You're supposed to imagine Donald Trump got the, it's a little different crowds than Joe Biden, but imagine Donald Trump.
No, he actually has crowds.
With 20,000 people, and he gave a 7-minute speech and went, okay, folks, I'll see you later. You waited in line for 7 hours. I mean, I see him speaking to people, groups of 20, okay, 20, and they have him on teleprompter. I mean, you can't hide this guy forever. And so even if he is the nominee, even if somehow he manages to win, who's going to run the country? Is it just going to be a bunch of people in the back room that, it's really scary because the guy that would ultimately be the nominee or perhaps, president-elect, I don't think anyone believes he could actually do the job. So who's actually doing it? I mean, don't we sort of have that problem, and haven't we had that problem for the last few years about sort of unelected bureaucrats making decisions for the American people, whether it be the Comeys of the world and this? I mean, isn't America sick of that by now? Because that's what you'd get if it's Joe Biden. I mean, he clearly can't make those decisions himself.
Well, look, obviously Joe Biden's going to be let out into the Rose Garden with a magnifying glass to fry bugs, while the DNC overlords are going to be sitting in the Oval Office making decisions about taking our rights, taking our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights.
I get criticized for just about anything I do and say, and I've been screaming this stuff for months at this point. And you know what? No one's written the article about how terrible it is that I'm saying these. No one's even disputing it. It's sort of, it's sort of crazy. I mean, I could say something common sense and get an entire article in, the Daily Beast, Fox, one of the left-wing, rags, and just, totally trying to destroy the point. No one's even they're like, okay, we're just going to leave this one alone because even they can't fact check it as false. You know what I mean? Even they can't come up with a BS angle, to change the narrative, which in and of itself is really telling.
Now, look, the president, I'm a strategy guy. I went to the Army War College, retired colonel. Seems to me that you guys in this election have two choices. You can run on the president's record, which is great. It's a magnificent record. We haven't seen anything like it since Ronald Reagan. Or you can run on going after Joe Biden or whoever substitutes in for Joe Biden. Which one are you going to take?
I mean, I think you have to do a combination of both. The reality is in 2016, Donald Trump, like every other politician before him, made a bunch of promises that even those that were supportive of him weren't really sure he was going to be able to deliver on, right? We've heard this story from our leaders for decades. I'm going to do this. I didn't do anything. There's no penalty. I can just keep my job and don't worry about it. Maybe we'll get to it next time. I mean, Donald Trump has a promises made, promises kept record. He's done it. He's hit all the things that he accomplished all of the things that they said he couldn't do, and now there's more he wants to do. Infrastructure, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, these are the sorts of things that you want him at the helm because he is a builder. He does understand how that works. And like they said with NAFTA, you can't renegotiate NAFTA. You'll never get that done. Done. You can't get a trade deal done with China. They'll never agree to it. Done. You strong at the helm who actually understands these things, not some of these former Obama administration guys that talk about things in wonderful theory. The only problem is they've never held a job outside of government. They've never done these things in the real world. They have no business negotiating deals that our children and grandchildren are going to be beholden to, because they just, you don't want someone doing that. I don't want, the first-time brain surgeon. That's not who I want. I want someone who's actually done it and created jobs. And my father's done that his whole life. So now he has that record. But I think you also have to point out, because of the fact that the media won't do it. The media is not an honest arbiter in this thing. They are no longer reporters. Aren't reporters. They're editorialists. They're opinion writers. They don't. They're not going to give us the benefit of the doubt. They're not going to give my father credit for that. If my father mispronounces one word, they're saying, "See, he's the same."
He's Joe Bidening. Look at him. He's Joe Bidening. Donald Trump Jr. You and Donald Trump have spent your career in the private sector. You've had to plan ahead for contingencies. We have about 30 seconds. Besides Hillary Clinton, who we've talked about, who else do you see as a threat to replace the manifestly incapable Joe Biden? We've got about 30 seconds.
Well, I don't necessarily view her as a threat. No, don't forget, the last time the Democrats rigged an election and a primary, it worked out really well for us. So, I'm not sure I see her as a threat. So I don't know that it matters. You know what I mean? We will deal with whoever it is that they throw at us, and they will do whatever they can to game the system to be able to eliminate Trump, rather than work with him to do things for the American people and their constituency. They've proved that over the last few years, and I don't think anything's changing.
Thank you, Donald Trump Jr. This is Kurt Schlichter, guest hosting for the great Hugh Hewitt. We'll be right back with Jim Geraghty.
Thank you, Kurt. To remind everyone, AndrewandTodd.com, AndrewandTodd.com. They are lenders with Sierra Pacific Mortgage, 888-888-1172. I don't know if they've done Kurt's house or not, but they should. Kurt, you ought to call up Andrew and Todd at 888-888-1172. No matter where you are, the interest rates have been driven down so low by the coronavirus that you need to check into whether or not you need to refinance. And even if you've done it in the last 6 months or 3 months, you've got to check again. Andrew Del Rey, Todd Avaki, and are friends of mine and have been for years. You can trust them. It's the most important portion of any consultation with a mortgage lender. 888-888-1172 or best go online to andrewandtodd.com, andrewandtodd.com. Answer a couple of quick questions. I'll be right back to you. Don't forget as well, Honorbound Coffee, honorboundcoffee.com. Colonel Kurt will love this. Honorboundcoffee.com dedicates 100% of their profits to serve the families of the military deployed overseas. 100% of every sip of coffee you take will be profiting those men and women who are protecting this country's freedom, as Colonel Kurt did for 20 plus years. Don't forget to get 2 bags for the price of 1 as their starting offer. And then, of course, ReliefFactor.com, made by the same people who make Honorbound Coffee, but this one is for profit. This one is for their benefit. But Pete and Seth Talbot have done such a great product that people buy it and buy it and buy it. We're up to tens of thousands of people every morning doing what I do, take it. I'm on vacation. I took it with me. It goes everywhere with me, especially if there's an overhead baggage compartment involved. And I have not regretted one day becoming a ReliefFactor.com user, and I know you're going to join me in saying that is amazing stuff. It's made my life easier. It will make your life easier, which is why tens of thousands of people have joined me in getting the starter pack, $19.95 for a 3-week trial, and then seeing if it works. And it usually does. On bad backs, on bad knees, on bad necks, whatever comes from exercise, aging, or long commutes, Relief Factor is for you. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by I Still Believe, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
All right. What's our condition? Our condition is red. Red alert here on the Hugh Hewitt radio program in the Relief Factor studio. I'm retired United States Army Colonel Kurt Schlichter, Town Hall senior columnist, and a noted Los Angeles trial lawyer. I'm joined by one of my personal friends and a favorite of this show, Jim Geraghty. Jim, I just had Donald Trump Jr. on the radio. I interviewed him, and I was told he believes there's a 50-50 chance that they will sub somebody out for that addled old weirdo Joe Biden before he takes the nomination. Your thoughts?
You know, I had just been saying to Dwayne right before we started taping, or right before we came on air, I thought the more revealing moment of yesterday was not his exchange with the construction worker where he said, yes, I'm going to take your AR-14s. By the way, Kurt, I don't know about you. If they only ban AR-14s, and everybody gets to keep their AR-15s, I think that's actually a pretty good trade. I'm willing to.
The AR-15 is actually one AR more.
As somebody said, it's like the iPhone, right? Each time they go up, just wait for the AR-16s. They're going to be even better. They come out next year.
Have better cameras on them.
Yeah. The bad words, and stuff like that. I think the more revealing moment came as he was leaving that site, and he's being hustled into the car.
Well, let's play that for the people. It's cut 13.
Right temperament with voters that you don't agree with, sir?
Vice President, on the coronavirus,
They're both targeting you over this exchange this morning with the voter about guns. Any regrets about how you handled it?
Well, I'm surprised that Sanders is joining Trump. It just surprised me.
Was it appropriate to swear at an American, though, especially a union voter? Was it appropriate?
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know if the audio really does it justice, and so I'd urge listeners to go out and see if they can find that exchange on YouTube. He really looks like your confused grandpa, and as much as in this general election, I'm going to enjoy kind of making fun of him and pointing out the gaffes and pointing out all the different ways in which we disagree with him. On some level, I feel bad for him because he looks like your confused grandpa who you want to get into into the home.
He's less Abe Simpson or less Abe Lincoln than Abe Simpson.
It's a very good metaphor there. Yeah, and it's his answer about Sanders is joining Trump. I know there's a bunch of questions coming at him, some about the coronavirus, some about that, but it just felt like this non sequitur, just felt like this utter disconnection from what everyone was saying in front of him. And look, my fear is, I think this is just not something you're going to be able to hide.
He can't be the nominee, Jim Geraghty of National Review. He can't be the nominee. Come on. Really? I mean,
look, the Democrats had 26 candidates, right? You can't complain they didn't have enough choices. They went through this list, and they ended up with this guy. And I think one of the reasons is that, yes, a big chunk of the party was not comfortable with Bernie Sanders and outright, I would say open socialism, as opposed to the closeted socialism that some of them believe in. But they weren't comfortable with Bloomberg. I mean, he is kind of I don't want to say it's just the consensus choice, right, or the default choice. He is effectively the punting choice, right? Earlier this week, there was
a sports metaphor. Awkward.
There was a metaphor. There was a report out of Axios that the Treasury Secretary options for a Biden administration would include Elizabeth Warren or Jamie Dimon, prominent CEO of banks up on Wall Street. Those are about as far a spectrum as you can get.
Are you saying that the Joe Biden candidacy is not ideologically based, but more of a practical matter?
Well, here's the thing: is that they're like, we'll fill in the blanks later. Right? There is no Bidenomics, right? There is no Biden economic vision or platform. It's basically just elect a Democrat, and we'll figure out the details later. I mean, Warren,
Orange man, bad.
Yeah, well, exactly, and maybe that's all they need. Maybe that'll work. It certainly is an easier message to run on. But at some point, you have to govern.
Well, let's get back to Don Jr.'s point. Don Jr. says there's a 50-50 chance that the Democrats are going to pull Biden out before the nomination and parachute somebody in. Maybe Felonia, Milhouse Von Pantsuit, maybe somebody else. What do you think of that? Is that? I mean, it's the era of Trump, Jim. There's no craziness.
Yeah. Look, there is one semi-precedent with this back with McGovern and
Torricelli.
Torricelli in the Senate race, maybe on presidential races, because on the Republican side, look, we know, God forbid anything happens to President Trump. Well, Mike Pence takes over. Pence would pick a vice president or a running mate, and that's how things would shake out from there. With the Democratic side, one question is, God forbid something happens to Biden between now and the convention. Does that mean that Sanders, because he's won the second most delegates, is the nominee?
Are you kidding? That's
Right,
never
so
going to happen.
Let's say the convention happens, Biden's the nomination, he has a running mate, let's say he picks Klobuchar, or let's say he picks Kamala Harris, right? Does Harris become the nominee? Not a single person, she didn't win a single delegate. The Bernie Sanders say, wait a second.
I don't know what's going to happen, but the fix is in. Jim Geraghty, a National Review. Get his morning jolt every morning. I do. And thank you for joining me the last 3 days here on the Hugh Hewitt radio programs. Thanks to Hugh and Dwayne and Adam, everybody. And it's been great. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to doing it again.